どうにか報いたかったんだ。
Now you see, this is what happens when you lend out your ego boards to the shonen protagonist with the pretty boy spirit. Interestingly enough, we opened this week with a flashback to the first episode and battle of the series, but from a different perspective, specifically Chroma's. Yes, it turned out that homeless camp that we noticed in the first episode was actually his pad. Thus, the evil villain was actually on his last legs when Chizuko arrived in town, and Kaju was pretty much delivering the final blow to the poor villain when she saw the two fight. Could be worse. At least he hasn't helped set up an autonomous zone yet. But yeah, while that setup alone was kind of hilarious, it was made even better by the fact that a lot of the damage had actually been done by Kaju, and we, the audience, just couldn't see it because it was being shown from Chizuko's very biased perspective that couldn't paint her precious magical girl as being at fault for anything. Oh, you sweet summer child. But yeah, she had actually been the one to destroy the bridge with all of her attacks, including the one with the big wand, ending up smashing into it. Again, I really like setups like this, where we get new context to scenes that make us rethink them. In this case, we realized that Chroma was the actual victim, as Kaju ended up destroying his camp, which led to his big scream at the end. Nah, he's just a big LA Knight fan. Best US champion of the modern era. Of course, this led to him being on the streets, where Chizuko's grandfather eventually found him and invited him to stay at his house and set off the events of the show. With that, we return to the present, where Chizuko was now considered to be an evil general named Dante, and wasn't looking forward to becoming a diet Machiabese. Luckily for her though, it didn't seem like she would have to take that job, as Chroma had announced that they were pulling out of the whole evildoer thing. And yeah, I honestly thought this would turn out to be some sort of trick or troll, but no, Chroma was honestly calling it quits, which to be fair was justified, in that he wasn't at all good at his job. That said, this might seem like a rather sudden twist even for a more comedic show like this, and yet it was even more sudden in the original manga, where the story played out in the third or so chapter, right after Chizuko discovered the villains were living under her grandfather's house. And I also do understand why this anime decided to move it a little later in the storyline, as the following manga chapters were the introduction of Mashiro. We'll talk more about that stuff later, as first, Chizuko initially celebrated the fact that she was freed from Chroma's nonsense. However, after spending a completely uneventful day at school, she did start to feel like something was missing in her life. Later, she also started to realize that if Chroma wasn't around, then of course her precious berry blossom couldn't do her usual heroic activities. Fortunately though, there was still evil out there to fight. I mean, come on, who else is gonna stave off that crazy Karen moth? Of course, this led to the intentionally cliche bit of the pretty boy finding the sad girl in the rain and lending her an umbrella while she was at her lowest point. Though in a funny subversion, said girl actually recognized it was the dude's fault that she had been left in such dismay and took out her aggression on Chroma. Thus, she finally decided to accept her role as an evil general, and even conveniently had an alias that she could use that she didn't initially have in the manga, so yeah, it did make sense to move things around a little for this anime. And interestingly, Chroma did kind of try to deter her, possibly because he had already kind of checked out on doing the whole evil thing, but also possibly not wanting to force Chizuko to do anything she didn't want to. Okay, Utena would actually be kind of proud of that line. With that, the two decided to challenge Kaju as she was cleaning the beach, who was also kind of depressed that she had been reduced down to cleaning duty. Thus, it was actually fortunate that Chroma arrived to splash water in her face. From there, he attacked her with a water hand full of sea urchins, which, okay, that's actually kind of dangerous, as those things can be very poisonous, and then launched a sneak attack. It was so surprising that you decided to flip in the air just to land a few feet away. Yeah, let's address the elephant in the room. The animation and storyboarding in this one flat out kind of suck. Both were handled by Taketomo Ishikawa, who, as far as I can tell, is mostly a key animator, so yeah, a full episode like this is a little beyond his range. Now, of course, bad or at least awkward action is no big deal for a comedy like this, and at times could even unintentionally add to the laughs, but when they try to do actual jokes and they're not as snappy as they should be, well, then things are kind of falling. Again, not the biggest deal in the world, as they did at least get in some of the more important aspects, like Kaju quickly realizing that she enjoyed fighting evil, and Chizuko enjoyed watching her, even if she was kind of helping cause it. Though I will say, Mashiro's lines here are a little weird, as after the last episode, he should be a little more accepting of the idea that his partner has villains to fight again. Like, I get that they move manga chapters around, but again, y'all could have adjusted for that, just saying. Well, whatever. Kaju ended the battle with, I guess, her signature attack. Okay, now I'm starting to see the fundamental difference between this girl and Utena. The two villains retreated, and in a wholesome moment, Chroma acknowledged that Chizuko would obviously never want to see Kaju be fully defeated, and he was fine with that, as both could still live their best evil lives possible. And with that, the episode ended with them recovering from their initial Pikachu jitters. A post-credit scene gave us an actually really funny bit where a random Kuma Kaijin went with Chizuko's grandpa to his Eagle Club that included a whole fitness class because according to them, the board game required some good cardio. Which, come on, we all know you're actually training for the next Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament. This was a pretty funny episode, but the subpar animation did kind of bring it down. While it had some great ideas, like showing a different perspective to the events of the first episode, the execution was a little lacking in terms of pacing for its jokes and of course the action. I still did like it, and of course this is a very important part of Chizuko's villain arc. I just hope that future episodes won't look as janky. I will say, one of the stronger aspects of this more satirical take on the magical girl genre is just how much life it gives to all of these characters. Obviously, Chizuko's desire to be a safe-for-work version of Magia Beize is fun to watch, especially as she slips further down the path of depravity alongside her partner in crime. Though said partner in crime was also surprisingly a supportive friend. And sure, part of that was because this is from a shoujo manga, so the shipping had to be there, but I actually get a stronger sense of an older brother helping his sister live her best life, even if their ultimate goals didn't exactly line up. Hell, even Kaju got a little development in this episode, showing signs of the lonely magical girl from the opening who needed villains in her life to give it purpose, otherwise the best crime fighting she could do was prevent pollution, albeit she's doing it more effectively than Captain Planet. Stuff like that, plus the cold opener with the first episode from Chroma's perspective, were a lot of fun, and did provide a ton of laughs through the effects of new context. That said, the episode itself did feel a little lacking in energy, mostly due to the animation. I mean, subpar action is one thing, but some of the slice of life moments also felt a little lacking due to pacing issues and a lot of jank. Again, it's not the worst thing ever, just kind of distracting from an overall pretty solid episode. I do think it was smart to move around some of the manga chapters, but considering that this all came from a single chapter, maybe they could pick up the pace just a little, because a show like this doesn't deserve to be held down in any way, even by a tight budget. Thanks for watching, and I hope y'all have had a nice week so far. I mean, you made it halfway through, haven't you? For us in the States, aside from a few not too bad hurricanes, I think we're holding up pretty well. Personally, I'm really getting into some underappreciated JRPGs on Steam, which are made even better with some mods. Though don't worry, we're still working on some longer form projects little by little too. So, look forward to whatever comes next. Until then though, for now my friends, and yeah, I guess I may as well do my part.